There is more than one way to communicate, and our guest today, Abbi Fletcher, founder of Colorado Spellers Collective in Denver, will speak to this. How do you like that turn of phrase there, Abby? The Colorado Speakers Collective helps non-speaking, minimally speaking, and unreliably speaking individuals to be heard, known, and understood. And when you go on her website, you'll cry because it's so wonderful what she's doing there. So, Abby, this is the big question. It starts with it's a mystery to parents why their children don't speak, and especially if they've gone from speaking to non-speaking, which can easily happen around ages 2 and 3. So, can you please address what happens in the brain, in the body, that creates a non-speaking individual?
Yeah. So I think the first thing you want to think about is the fact that just because someone is non-speaking does not mean they're non-thinking. And I think the main key word, and I can't say this for everybody, but is apraxia. So apraxia in its most simple form is this disconnect between the brain and knowing what we want to say and how we want to respond and how we want to move our bodies to getting that to the motor portion of our brain. And so apraxia, with this, everybody I work with, I presume competence. I know they are in there. I know they're taking in everything. I know they understand things. I don't need to use two-word sentences. They are there and they're knowing how they want to respond. But once that signal is sent, sometimes that signal is disrupted. Sometimes that signal to our body is too slow, or maybe it gets jumbled in the brain. And so what that really affects big time is fine motor. Fine motor is the most impacted by apraxia, and fine motor is our eyes, our lips, and our fingers. So when it comes to speaking, we don't realize this because we're doing it without thinking, but our brain is coordinating so many things and so many muscles for me to even get one word out that if you do have challenges with your fine motor and your fine motor not actually doing what you're telling it to do, then that is where you have the case where somebody is having a challenge of speaking when they may be fully in there and usually are, but they just aren't able to truly get the motor to their mouth. You'll also see folks with challenges with their eyes too. And so you'll hear a lot of times people speaking about autistics who, well, they don't make eye contact or this. And okay,
Right.
it may not be that they don't want to, but it may be truly just the control of their eyes. They don't have
Oh.
it or they haven't developed it. So that is why, non-speaking does not mean non-thinking. It means non-speaking usually means they've got a body that is not listening to what their brain is telling it to do.
Okay, so I get two pieces of that, the eyes and the lips. I don't get the fingers.
Yeah, so it's just kind of how our brain is developed and how this motor strip works in our brain. A lot of it is really focused on those portions of our body because we've had to develop lips to speak, eyes to see. Just in terms of our evolutionary process, these are the things that have kept us alive. Being able to see this predator coming my way, being able to grab things I need. But fingers actually fall into that fine motor category too. So I might be getting ahead of myself, but you are working with folks that have a hard challenge writing things. So when we're doing diagnostics, when we're doing things like that, and we're saying, hey, point to I've got a pencil and a pen here. Hey, can you grab the pencil for me? And maybe they don't move at all, or maybe they grab the pen. Um, I think we need to look at that as maybe it's not that they didn't understand the question. Maybe their vision is off, so they grabbed the wrong thing. Or maybe they know what they want to do, but their hand didn't go at all. They said, okay, I know what the pencil is, Abby. So it's truly a matter of their bodies having a mind of their own. And with apraxia, especially full body apraxia, it's a fine motor that is most impacted, but gross motor can be impacted as well.
Okay, what's gross motor?
big, think arms, legs, big, like walking, moving the big portions of your body, whereas
Okay.
fine motor are these little, these little parts.
Okay, well, you actually advanced what I was going to ask next, so I'm really happy that you did in terms of writing. So I said, hands. How are hands? Because I couldn't understand. And when I was preparing for this, I thought, okay, so Abby's going to explain what she does at Colorado Spellers Collective, and you're going to do that in a second. Well, you're going to do that with this explanation. You use a stencil and you have the individual, your client, the person that you're teaching and working with, um, point to the letters that make up each word, that make up the sentence, that make up the thought. So I was going to ask you, well, why can't they just write? Or why can't they just type? Why can't they use an iPad? And you actually just started to address this. And I remember there's a portion of a video that you asked me to watch. It's either the documentary that you told me to watch or it's on your website. And it's a gal, probably the third or fourth person in this series of people that were being demonstrated. Um, she was very happy. I think both of her parents were sitting behind her, and it was hard for her to focus on continuing to make the words necessary for the thought. And she was being engaged to focus so that she could communicate.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
go ahead, answer this and tell us what you do there.
sensory drives motor. Remember that. And think about it when you go and you turn on the shower and you hop in and the shower's too hot and you jump out. Your body did that, but your sensory input of this hot water drove your motor to jump out of the water or to turn it so it's colder. So when we think of folks who are, working with sensory systems that are working on overdrive or maybe not working enough, you have to take that into account. You want to know that, hey, I want this person I'm working with to be as regulated as possible. But in order to take that into account, I need to take into account what's going on sensory wise with them. So when I'm working with clients, my goal is to co-regulate. I am not only assessing their bodies and their eyes and different parts of them in terms of their motor, but I'm also assessing just kind of their general state because I think we all know that if you are in, fight or flight, and I ask you to do this algebra problem, it's gonna be really hard because your brain is focusing on all these other things. So our goal is really to help them get to a place where they are regulated enough, their sensory system is regulated enough, where they can put that mental effort into their motor. And the motor develops and it gets smoother and easier for them and usually quicker. And then we can, help to develop that communication journey. But, from the get-go, we are coaching motor. When I'm working with clients, I'm always presuming competence. I'm never questioning or testing what they know. I'm there saying, hey, let's talk about XYZ as a medium just to chat about, and then I'm going to help you get your body to the right place to communicate. And it starts off heavily prompted. And that is, you'll hear detractors say, well, you're prompting everything, you're telling them what to do. Well, you have to prompt when you learn anything. When you were learning how to drive, someone was telling you, okay, turn the wheel, flip the blinker on, and then you realized how to do it yourself. You didn't need someone telling you every step. So working with clients at the start of learning how to spell is heavily prompted because I want to give them that feedback of knowing where their body is in space, if they need to shift their eyes to get to it so that it can become easier and natural. So these pathways in their brain get developed and then they no longer need me. But it starts off of me making sure that they are in a regulated state so I can coach their motor to help start developing those neural pathways.
Hold on, go back to, and then they no longer need me. You can
Yeah.
get people to a position where they're on their own, they're more self-regulated, they know what to do if they find regulation, irregulation coming up.
Yes. Oh, yes. Without a
Wow.
doubt. That is it. And just like you now can drive without anybody telling you what to do. Hopefully you're
Except
not
they
breaking.
try to, of course,
Yeah, I
always.
was
But
saying, hopefully you're not breaking
yes,
any laws,
point well
but
taken.
it is something where I start heavily prompting to give them the assistance they need, and then you pull back. Once you see that they got it and they don't need me giving them these cues anymore, I'm able to pull back, and I know that where, depending on what board they're communicating on, I can just hold the board and I'm just sitting there truly scribing the letters they're pointing to. Boom, boom. I'm not, they're flying. And I just get to be there to receive what they're writing and then, say, to mom and dad behind us, hey, they said that they, want to do X, Y, Z, or they're interested in going to college now.
It was lightning speed. It was actually very difficult for me to keep up as I'm watching this in front of me on these videos. I'm like, okay, Judy, you have to really pay attention so that you know what's being said. And here's what I was blown away. So you're holding up a stencil just to let everybody, do you have one with you? Yay. Okay, great. And they come in different sizes and with different amount of letters, depending on where the individual is in their communication path, journey,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yep. So we
Okay.
start off with what we call the three boards, and all 26 letters are on three boards. And these boards are meant to be, in terms of, vision, the most easy for
Oh,
someone to be able to see. Because again, like I mentioned earlier with apraxia, even getting our vision to the right place. So I want to start off with something where the letters are big, they're decently spread apart. And as we're starting, I'm only doing questions where I know they know the answer. So if I said, hey, Judy, we just read this paragraph about snakes, and in the paragraph it said a snake is a reptile. One of my questions then for us to practice spelling on might be, hey, what animal family are snakes in? And I know you are going to tell me reptile. We just said it. That's what we're going for. So I will hold up the board with an R. You're going to get there and I'm going to help to coach you. But as you get to the place where I'm not coaching at all, I know you're flying. And because you now have developed the skills, then we're going to elevate it to this. We call this the 26 board. So visually, you got a lot more going on. The letters are closer, they're much smaller.
Meaning the
So
motor skills have to be more in control by the individual. Okay, keep going.
perfect. Yes. Meaning, but now we're gonna build skills on this board. Okay. So it's something where as their motor picks it up and it gets smoother for them, I can then adjust the boards and I can then adjust the questions I'm asking. In Spelling and Communicate, we work and are aware of something called the cognitive motor seesaw. All right. So in our brain, or when we're learning this skill, I'm aware that they have the seesaw in their brain. And at the beginning of learning how to do spelling and communicate, I'm asking them to do a ton of motor work. It is a serious brain workout. So I want to bring the cognitive side of my questions down because this side over here, this motor side, I am really, really asking a lot. So I'm going to make the cognitive questions easier because I want them focusing on developing these skills. As these
Mhm.
skills are developed, I can then make my questions more and more challenging. And then eventually you get to a board where they have access to all the letters. I don't need to know what they're going for. I can ask them an open-ended question and I just follow what they want to tell me. But as we're starting and as they're gaining these skills, I do need to know where they're going so I can
Yeah.
help guide their body so they can start developing that. And then eventually they get to what we call laminate board. Easy. We got numbers on both or numbers on the back, but this is something that's easier to carry around. And again, you can say Hello. My name is Abby. Um, you asked about, can people do this independently? Yes, I believe people can get there without a doubt. It is a matter of, do they want to stop at the laminate? Or a lot of people want to get to independent typing. That opens up a lot of
Oh,
doors. You
okay.
no longer need someone else there to scribe what you're pointing at. But when you're able to fully type and say what you want to say and hit a button and it'll say the sentence for you. Now that I tell folks that is a place where some spellers want to get to, because they want to go and they want to work a job or they want to do things that they don't need to have anybody around them to support them. But other spellers will say, hey, I've lived 36 years of my life without being able to communicate at all. Now I have all 26 letters. I have infinite possibilities of what I can say. Let me stick with this laminate and let me go live life for a little bit. Let me go and, do all the things I've wanted to do now that I can communicate. And others will say, nope, give me the next challenge. Let me learn how to type on a keyboard. But that brings in a whole nother element of skills, meaning shifting your eyes from the keyboard to the screen, the much smaller letters.
Oh,
So you have some spellers that say, laminate is good. Let me go do my thing. And others say, no, let me learn how to type. And we'll take them there and we'll give them access to that.
okay. So the people that love the laminate and um, feel in control with the laminate, and they're out with anybody, whether it's social, school, business, at home with the family. How do they sit with or juxtapose themselves with the person they're communicating with? Because that person needs to understand what they're scribing, correct?
Correct. Yep. So most spellers will still have someone with them that's
Mm.
just holding the board, right? And they're just
Oh,
there scribing it. And so you'll
okay.
see interviews with spellers on this, and they will have we call it a CRP, a communication regulation partner, but
Mm.
that's truly the person at home that they're working with on this. And they will do it, and then the person will scribe it, and then the communication regulation partner will answer on their behalf. I have seen spellers that are able to set this down and just point, but you do still need that other party when you're on a laminate to be able to have someone that's actually scribing, THEOTTERSWIMS, blah, blah, blah. So that, you still do need someone there to support to be able to just scribe what they're saying. But then, if you do get to a point where you're typing, that removes the need to have anybody else for you, which, like I said, opens up.
Far more autonomy and independence that way. So, you know what blew me away? When I was watching these videos, parents were always, one or both parents were sitting behind the individual. Two things happened. A, I was blown away with the depth of thought that came out of the individuals as they were spelling, scribing. And I thought, my God, she's so right. Because what's been locked inside is observation, perception, understanding, processing. But because the motor skills were affected, nothing could come out. And all of a sudden, you have this really rich depth of thought coming out. And then I looked at the parents' faces. I could almost start crying now. I looked at the parents' faces and they expressed two things. First of all, they were blown away. And then the guilt. Oh my God, I can't believe my child has been locked inside of this body, unable to interface with society, and I had no idea. And can we just tell parents not to feel guilty because this is so complicated? It's unbelievable.
Yes, we can. And most spellers, when they can communicate, will say, don't feel guilty. You didn't know better.
Hmm.
Because think about that. This parent has been told by professionals in the field for however many years that their, child has an IQ of whatever, based on their,
And
observation.
I bet it's a lot lower than it really is.
Always. I mean,
Yeah.
almost, I can say that pretty commonly. Almost always it is. So the parents didn't know better. So yes, these spellers, are usually very gracious and say, "You did the best you could do. I get it. I get it that my body showed something, and that there was no way you could know." So, yeah, they have deep, beautiful thoughts, just like you and I do, that have truly been locked away. And they have a totally different perspective because they haven't been able to communicate their whole lives. So, or at least not functionally communicate, where it's served a purpose to benefit them and to be able to share who they are. So yeah, there are a lot of big emotions that happen when you open up someone's access to communication.
And all of a sudden, I just got a chill, and I was thinking of this connection, this feeling, this energy that that's probably elicited in that moment, connecting parent and child in a much better way now.
Yes.
Yeah.
They can have, yes, this total perspective shift of, okay, let me forgive myself and let me move on to a new state of living with my son or daughter, or being around them and truly acknowledging that they are in there. They are comprehending. How is that going to change my actions? How's that going to change the conversations I have in front of them? You think
Yes.
about that, about parents who are like, man, what did I say that I didn't think they were listening, that they heard all along? So it opens up this brand new world of, oh, wow, I understand, and I understand you're in there. And now, how can I better support you? But you have to get them to a place where they can communicate that and unlock how smart they are. Because
Yeah.
without access to communication, we don't know. We have to make assumptions of what you like to eat and the things you like to do. But once you can communicate that, you tell us that you don't really like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and that you don't want your bedroom of a 30-year-old man covered in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You can finally say, I don't really like them. Those little things, that autonomy is just, yeah, some of the really special moments that happen when someone can finally be heard and understood.
Because what connects us is communication in any form. What connects us is okay. So now that the individual is brought to the point where they can go out in society and connect, let's talk about employment. Because I mean, this is what feeds us. This is what how we express ourselves. This is what gives us value and self-worth if we can work and contribute in some way. It doesn't even matter what we make for a living. But if we're really skilled in some areas that can make us a lot of money, all the better. So let's start from the beginning. Do you evaluate the skills and talents? Who evaluates the skills and talents so they know where to go for employment opportunities?
I think the first step is asking them. I mean, ultimately, I love the phrase nothing, about us without us. And that rings true in a lot of things that I think about daily is asking them. They have access to telling us now. What do you want to do? What do you like? What are you passionate about? Do you want to go to law school because you want to fight for disability advocacy? Do you want to be a musician? So I think it's really up to that person who finally can say, this is what I want to spend my time doing. And then giving them access to the support they need to either gain the skills if they don't already have them, to do that profession, or access to helping them find places that are, willing to, hire someone that has communication that is outside of the box that we typically, have, So it starts with asking them. And then next it is,
Thanks.
what support can we provide them to help connect them to employers, get them the skills they need, or even just maybe they haven't even had the opportunity to try different things. They're like, oh, I kind of like cooking. Don't know if I want to do it for a living. All right, let's go find you some organization that's going to give you access to, a real kitchen and how to work it. And then let's do this. Let's do it. There's a really cool company here in Denver called Tact. And they do, semester-long courses to teach real skills, coding, welding, cooking. But then they have these little like camps where someone, if they're like, I just want to get a taste of it and see if I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's like, okay, cool. Let me try some of the things that I know I like. Let me see if I actually want to develop them into a career.
I went on their website.
Yes.
I loved what they were doing. I thought that was great. And I thought, well, maybe I should bring them on the show because this is really important. So do you at uh, Colorado Spellers Collective outsource? How do you bring in like you said, training for them, education? Do you do that? Do you serve as an outsourcer?
Yeah, in a sense. So, if I have someone that, now is able to spell openly and they say, well, I want to go get a college degree, then our sessions will shift from, me, getting to the place where they can communicate to now, all right, you're in this English 101 class. All right, what's your topic? You spell it out. I will scribe your essay for you, right? So there are places where,
Wow.
practitioners can help and CRPs can help with education, right? Because they're still writing it. I'm just the one writing the actual like letters down, but they're still the one saying everything. And
Mm-hmm.
of these beautiful, essays come out, usually much better than anything I ever wrote in English 101. Uh, but it was just done in a different format. So in terms of jobs, I'm outsourcing that. I know my skill set and I know not to leave the boundaries of what I, know how to do. So I'm constantly networking with places around town. Um, speaking to them about non-speakers and how non-speakers are not non-thinkers and how they are not only able to work these jobs, but should be in these jobs because the diversity in the knowledge they bring is so special that these companies would be fools not to want to have someone with that perspective, on their team. So I'll outsource it if they want skills. You got tact. I've got a couple of different places here in
Mm-hmm.
town. If someone's like, I want to go make some money, I'm like, sweet. What are you into? If not, let's meet, let's introduce you to some folks and let them take it from there.
Okay, this all sounds so hopeful. So now we're in the job interview. So everybody's successful getting the individual to this point. They're in the job interview. What do you focus on first? How should the individual, first of all, two things, because you said this to me earlier when we pre-interviewed. Employers should focus on the skill set necessary for the job, talk about that with the individual, and then let the individual bring up the accommodations once we get the connection between the individual and the available job cemented. Okay, this is the right interview for the right person for this particular position, Mr. Employer. So, how does this go? Give us a little rendition.
So I think, I think it is very dependent on the position that is being applied for. Because as you mentioned earlier, my background, prior to doing all this was I also was on the side of HR and I was the director of talent acquisition for a um, major organization of ABA clinics. So I've been on all sides of hiring and being hired. And to your point, we need to be interviewing and employers need to be interviewing for the actual skills needed for the job. And I spoke recently, I was at a conference and was able to speak with Temple Grandin, which was
Oh
very cool. And Judy, if you can get her on this podcast,
my
she is,
God.
she is so knowledgeable just about the workforce and what it looks like to be in the workforce and how now we're having to ship out these jobs because we're not allowing people to work for us because they didn't do well in the interview. Well, what does that mean? If I'm hiring someone to be a stalker in a warehouse, do they need to have the most amazing conversation skills? Do they need to be able to do customer service? No. Why am I judging their interview based on if they can communicate eloquently? I shouldn't be. That's not part of their job,
Good point.
right?
Yeah,
Can they
great
communicate with
point.
other people they're working with? That's what I need, but I don't need them to, be able to sell something. So I really encourage, employers to truly look and assess the jobs you're hiring for and base your interviews off those situational questions that'll give you information on if they can do the job, not if they're a good, candidate, just whatever that means.
What their volunteer portfolio
Yeah.
looks like. I know, I
Yes, and
understand.
and I mean also we're in the days of where a lot of these are done, virtually. I mean, I can make myself look and sound real snazzy for a 30-minute interview, but that doesn't tell you much truly about me. Always. So I think that's part of it. Now, when it comes to jobs, I believe non-speakers can do any job. And these are real jobs. These are high-paying jobs. If they want to be a BCBA, if they want to be a politician, they can do it. But we need to look at how do we get them there? How do we get them to the point? So you asked about interviewing.
Mhm.
So, if someone is still, on a laminate board and still needs a partner there to decipher it, then that interview is going to look like there's going to be two people there. It's going to have your person you're interviewing, and it's going to have their CRP there that's just scribing, and then they'll share the answer, but they're still interviewing that candidate.
Mhm.
And that job, that employer would need to know that at this point, that person is going to need a position where they're able to have access to someone who's able to be with them. Now you have folks that are able to type independently and they can type their answers. So that would modify the interview of, all right, hey, ask me the question as you would any other candidate, but instead of me verbally giving you that answer, I'm going to type it out and I'm going to press enter and you'll get my answer in the chat. So I encourage employers to be open-minded. And instead of assessing the obstacles or the challenge, let's actually assess really the benefits that hiring someone that is, not, the same as everyone else we have on our team, the benefits that can come from that. Because this person is going to bring in a unique perspective. They're going to bring in, you sometimes have groupthink where you have a team that's all kind of from the similar backgrounds, not super diverse. All right, maybe they have a great idea, but they came up with this one great idea. So it's almost this kind of group thing. But you have really, they're more innovative, these teams are that are more diverse. And then also you have the perspective of someone who might also be one of your customers. So not only are you understanding your customers better, because your customer may be in a similar
Ah.
situation as this person you're potentially hiring, but you're understanding your customers' needs better and therefore serving your customers better. And what company or organization doesn't want to do that? So I think the more diverse and the more people with different experiences and life situations that we can get, the more research will show, the more successful companies are. But it does require you looking outside of the little box that you've created for this certain position and say, all right, maybe this will look a little bit different, but I believe we can do this.
I completely agree. The diversity will unlock doors to opportunity, to a different level of success, to different creative ideas, and it's kind of like you may be sitting next to somebody at an event that you're looking at them, oh, we'll never connect. For some odd reason, the nationality, I don't know what it is, but somehow, but then something comes up that is a personal connection outside of the reason why you're sitting there. And all of a sudden, that deeper personal connection unlocks a better professional relationship.
Yes.
And I've seen that happen, and I get very excited when people share personal experiences, or in the case of neurodivergent people working at companies, when people have to accommodate, when there's something they have to do, the other employees, a little different than they're used to in terms of getting work done, that actually unlocks a different level of creativity and observation about providing a better product, providing a better service. And really, you brought this up already. And
Yeah.
that's how diversity can enhance and enrich your company.
We don't want the same people with the same thoughts and ideas. That's not going to push us forward. We need people with different perspectives and, to understand that, like you said, that is what is going to be the key to our success. That's going to keep us
Hmm.
moving forward, staying innovative and staying agile as a company,
Mm,
which you have to do these
yeah.
days.
Yeah. No,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I want to address this last piece of employment, and that is the parents' buy-in. What are the parents' roles in supporting their child, their neurodivergent child, apraxia, moving forward in the employment world?
my first word that came to mind is encouragement. Believe in them. Sometimes when you have lived your whole life saying, having people telling you, "Oh, they're not going to be able to do that. Oh, let's lower the standards." That people need encouragement to even believe in themselves. So I would
All of
say
us, every one of
all
us.
all without a doubt, we need to know that, hey, someone's behind me. So even the days that I wake up and it's really hard for me to believe in myself, I got someone believing in me. Outside of that, it's a situational thing. I think you have a lot of folks that are no longer in homes with their parents. So they may not have access to that, but if they are blessed enough to be in a home with a parent that's willing to have the time to support them, then the parent asking, saying, "What's going on at work? How's it going? Be honest with me." And and ideally this person is vulnerable enough and willing to communicate enough to say, "Oh man, I'm really having a challenge with XYZ. How can I work on that?" And then brainstorming with the parent, right? But so I think the parent's role is first and foremost to encourage and support. And then secondly, be that open door for when, their child comes to say, "Hey, okay, this is not working out," or "Man, I'm getting really anxious." Okay, hey, how are we helping to address your anxiety? Because maybe it's not just with work. Maybe it's so, all right, maybe we go find a therapist that you can connect with. So I think that's it, because parents can be such a benefit to have there, uh, if they're not the ones that are setting the limits, which sometimes that's it, right? They're saying, "Well, I don't think my kid could go do that." Maybe they'll go and sort silverware, but I don't think they could be a politician. No. So maybe I take that back. The first thing the parents need to do is believe, then encourage and support, because they need to know that their son or daughter are capable of whatever they want to do.
Believe, absolutely. And I know there's fear that every parent has, regardless of who their child is. If the child is still living at home, so an adult person still living at home for some specific reasons, there's a lot of fear in letting go. How are they going to do on their own in the outside world? But it has to happen in order for your son or daughter to have a life. And I know it's easy for me to say, but you're saying it. So I appreciate that. And you're in the field. So I love that. And we all fall down. We all reevaluate. That's normal. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, right?
Yes.
It's
And
just the
that's a learning
process.
lesson too. Yeah.
Yeah.
To learn that, hey, everything doesn't always go smoothly. And I think for a lot of these folks, they know that already. They know, they're like, "That's been the name of my game, as my life hasn't gone smoothly." But to know that, hey, nobody's expecting perfection. If they are, they're unrealistic. We're expecting us to do our best every day. And that looks different every day. So,
Yeah, and as you're just saying this, and we are ending our discussion at least for now, but we can come back. Um, there are certain cities and certain states that are set up better to support a neurodivergent community. And when you say apraxia, I just wanted to go back to that one quick second. You can talk about autism, Down syndrome, Tourette's, any kind of uh, brain function that requires extra help. Okay, so this is a big umbrella that you're falling under. Not every city or every community is set up to accommodate your child. I mean, people do move. in order for their child. And you may have more than one child that has certain, situations that they need to deal with. That may be a reality. And I'm telling you, I cannot believe how neurodivergent friendly Denver, Fort Collins, what's the third place? There's the triangle of three cities, Boulder.
Well, Boulder, yeah, and even let's throw Colorado Springs in it too.
Okay,
They
Colorado
have,
Springs. I mean, this
yes,
is a rich community that supports people. There are others, and I've had people on this show from other communities, but that may be something to address just because if you're one child, if you have one child that needs extra help, doesn't that really help the whole family?
yes. I know people that have moved to Colorado specifically because we have the
Yeah.
top disability laws and protections in the United States. And they've said,
Hmm.
it's not worth it to keep fighting this fight in XYZ state. I'm
Yeah.
going to go to Colorado where, it might still be an uphill battle, but, it's not going straight up the mountain. Maybe it's a little bit easier, but why not? Why, if you're able to, if you're blessed enough to be able to say, I'm going to relocate, find a place that is supportive and will help you help your family member to live their best, most independent life.
I mean, for heaven's sakes, there's the Denver Neurodivergent Chamber of Commerce. I mean, that's not in every state, every city. That's pretty special as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you work with, no, you can't work with people remotely, right? They really do have to be with you, or do they?
Actually, you can. So spelling and communicate can be done remotely. It's as simple as, someone having a computer setup
Okay.
where I'm able to see from behind what's going on. Now, I always tell folks if you can find somebody in person, start there. But it can be done remotely. It's something that myself and everybody in this field is passionate about people having access to communication. So if you don't have somebody that's in your state or that you can travel to,
Hmm.
go to, I would say the iAsk website, I-ASC, and find a provider. And if you can't find one, reach out to them and they can hook you up with someone who's been doing this for a long time that can, help to provide you support, even if they don't live in your state. So it is most ideal when it's in person, but it is not impossible to do it virtually.
Well, or people could call you for you to help them on their journey if they can't move to Denver or do remote, at least to help them on their journey in other states. So can you please give this is going to be in the show notes, but can you please, for people who like to take notes while they're watching, how do they connect with you?
Yep. So Colorado Spellers Collective, feel free, Instagram, Facebook. If you just type that in, you will be able to find me. My phone number is 720-515-0408, or
Again, say it twice.
I'll say it twice, 720-515-0408,
Okay.
or you can shoot me an email, info@coloradospellerscollective.com. I am here to support folks. So even if it's a question, whatever it is, reach out. I want to help.
Thank you, Abby Fletcher. You were just wonderful. I have loved this discussion, so helpful. And thank you for doing the work that you do.
Yes, thanks for having me. Thanks for spreading the word and for helping, build awareness that all people should have access to getting jobs, to be, in a spot where they feel fulfilled and giving back. So thank you for this, Judy, and, keep up the good work.
Well, my response to that is in the world of special needs, we all need each other. Take care, everybody. Talk to you next time.